degrees. It'll be mostly cloudy tonight, going down to a low of 64. Clouds tomorrow with a high near 76. Partly sunny Thursday with a high near 82. And we'll see some sunshine Friday with a high near 84. On this Tuesday, September the 17th of 2024, at 10 minutes past 8, we've got a temperature of 61 degrees with sunny skies in Beaver County. That's news. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
It's time to wake up and get driving in the fast lane here on Beaver County Radio. It's the morning show that talks about what's happening in the news, locally, regionally, and nationally. There's also music to get you started for the day, and Curtis Walsh will have the news. It's all brought to you by Patriot Home Care. And now, here is the host of the show, Frank Sparks.
And welcome back. It is 8:10 a.m. and thank you for tuning in this morning. And now joining me live in studio, also on Facebook Live and on YouTube, is none other than Beaver County Controller Maria Longo. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning, Frank, and thanks for having me in this morning. It's
Thanks.
a nice new facility here. I
You
like it.
like it? Oh,
It
yeah.
is bright, cheerful. I like it.
Big difference, huh?
Yeah, a lot more room. A lot more room.
Yeah, now you're way across
There
the
you
room from
go.
me instead of just looking right in my face. So, and we asked Maria to come in. I called her the other day. There's a lot of different conversation and controversy going around about the possibility of the Beaver County Commissioners buying the former Times building. And this started, it came to light, I'm not going to say who shared it with me, but somebody shared it with me the other day, and then we found out there was a meeting as well at the courthouse about it. And in a letter that was shared on social media, you actually penned back in April of this year.
Correct.
So when it comes to that facility, it was originally bought at $675,000 in May of 2023. And the current owners of the building now want to turn around and sell it to the county. They say the assessed value after the assessment was $3 million. They want to come back and sell it to the county for $2.8 million. There's a lot of people saying, wow, that's a heck of a difference over a couple years. Has the county done any type of independent assessment on their own to assess the value of the building that you're aware of?
So by law, they're required to have another appraiser come in.
Mm-hmm.
So they did hire another appraisal company to come in and appraise that property. Now, I will say, to clarify, so the $2.8 million was what I was floated back in April when this first came up as a potential price to purchase the building because it was assessed. I mean, it's currently assessed at $3.1 million now. Back then, it looked at about $3 million, and that was in 2023. That was just a year ago, not even a couple years. And so that number is not for sure, right? So we need to negotiate. But, see, I lost my train. So we had to hire a third-party appraiser to give us appraisal. And that appraisal did come in the last month or so. I know that I have not seen that appraisal. I mean, they have not publicly disclosed that appraisal yet to say what that third-party appraiser came in, but they are required by law to get another appraisal to confirm this. Now, as we posted and in my letter, the third-party appraisal firm that they hired was recommended by the assessment office where the owner works and the person who sells the building was at the time a subcontractor for the county.
Okay. Now, moving forward at the $3.1 million that the value is, I was told the appraisal come back at $3 million.
The new one?
Yeah, that's what I was told.
A little bit less.
Okay. So
I will say I have seen the appraisal.
Okay.
It's not mine to share publicly.
Correct.
It was shared with me. Mm-hmm. So I think that's for the commissioners to share publicly. So that is why I'm not saying what that appraisal came back at.
Yeah. So, and Marie's job is, and it's just so everybody understands this from the beginning, as the elected controller, your job is you're basically the fiscal watchguard of the county. So
Correct.
It's up to you to take care of the money, make sure that we're spending our money wisely, and professionally, as you see something that might not be accurate, you try to make things to correct those things, or if you feel it's a bad deal, then you professionally say, I don't agree with this.
Bring it up in public meetings like I did back in April.
Right.
Correct.
So, all right. So the value, so the supposed value. So the building now, has there been, that you're aware of, has there been any new renovations done to this building at this point?
Just recently, I've been told there have been renovations, right?
Okay.
I don't know what amount's been done. I have not been told those numbers. I toured the building back in April before I presented at the public meeting. The letter that I shared on social media, as you said, was done in April. That was done at a public meeting. That is still on YouTube if anyone would like to see that meeting. But that's when I first brought all this up. I had toured the building. There was still a lot of work to be done then. At that point, I don't know if anything was done to it. That is when I started researching and found out that last year they had bought it for $675,000. In that same year, we assessed it at $3 million. So if the market said that someone's going to purchase it for $675,000, that's the market value. How was it assessed at 4 times that value in that same year? So that was my initial concern, was how is that happening? If there's work been done, I would love to see it, right? Like, my point is we need to be transparent. We need to do our due diligence, and we need to look at what's this really going to cost. And as I said in the other meetings, we do need more space. I think this building's too big. My looking at it, and again, this is my opinion on it, is that it's going to cost the county a lot more money than we think to make it functional. And long-term for the taxpayers, I think it's going to cost us employees to man that and things like that. And we need to look at those numbers and see what is it really going to cost the taxpayers in the long term, in the short term and the long term. And I've not seen that. If they've put in, if they want to sell it for $2.8 million, have they put in $2 million worth of, work to the building?
Right.
So, there needs to be, they need to share the numbers with us. We need to do a study and show the taxpayers why we need this and why it's the best purchase for us for what we need.
Realistically, you have a building that's been sitting vacant for 5 years.
Yes.
On top of it all.
Yes.
So there's, things dilapidate over a period of 5 years from sitting empty.
Security, windows, the heat and air conditioning, things like that. IT, like all these things need to be done. Even changing just the basic layout. If we are going to use it for the mine storage, we're going to have temperature controlled. That's going to be a huge cost to us, correct? There are departments that need it. We need to store our elections equipment. We need ESU space. We do need a lot of space, but let's ballpark what that cost is going to be to turn that building into what we need it to be. And I think for a project this big, we shouldn't be discussing a purchase price before we've looked at least what's it going to take to get it to what we need it to be.
Would this be cheaper for you, in your opinion? Would this be cheaper than building new?
That's hard to say. I don't know, because how much do we have to change to renovate it? Some areas would be cheaper, right? Like we can probably instantly, with just a little bit of security, store the ESU vehicles and things like that, store the elections equipment. But long term, I don't know. Okay. Now, there's been talk about, the building in Ambridge and how we looked at this to put up a building to store our equipment. And that building came back at $5 million. Now, I didn't see the design for that. Did we need that level of a building to store equipment? Or could it have been $1 million pole building, like a 500,000 pole? I don't know. I was not part of that. But I know those have been coming up as that, the quote to build a new building just to store the equipment was $5 million. But, with talking with a few people over the last couple months, that was over-designed. So,
okay. So where is the ESU unit currently housed at?
I'm not sure about that. I think some of it is at our DPW.
Okay.
And around there's election equipment it's getting tight.
Yeah.
So
okay. So the need is there for more space.
The need is there for more space, and the mines are expensive. So I am a proponent. I've been doing digitally scanning because to get things out of the wampum mines is very expensive. It's gone up. It's not optimal. But at $200,000 a year, I can get 10 years, but that's not the right answer.
Right.
But to go buy a building for 2.8, not knowing what it's going to cost us to actually be able to use it to store our files is not, to me, how you go about running a government.
With those files that are stored in the mines right now, so you said about $200,000, and there's fees every time you have to go out there and get some.
Correct.
Right? Get something. Okay. Is there a need to keep it in hard copy, or is it something we could digitally do, as you were talking about?
So the majority of stuff there, we probably could get rid of some of it. But we're government. We have to keep stuff forever. Our resolutions, our minutes,
Right.
a lot of our retirement info, things like that. I mean, for retirement, I have to keep it 10 years past the last time somebody was paid. How
wow.
do you track that, right?
Yeah,
There's like a
right.
certain amount of time. So you keep it forever. You have to keep those type of records. A lot of the government records have to be kept forever. Therefore, it has to be kept in paper copy.
Gotcha.
Now, there are ways to keep it digital now with PDFAs and things like that, but you have to register with the government. They have to approve it. It is a process. And then as that changes, you would have to keep up with that. So the paper copy is always the safest. And we have all those paper resolutions from, the early 1900s that have to be kept.
So how do you go about, that's a controlled environment.
Correct.
For the most part, it's underground, so it's dark. So, it's not oxygen and light and stuff isn't destroying the documents. How do you go about, is that what you're talking about when you talk about renovate? You haven't moved yet. You got to move and the light
I
will
got to
turn
move my
back on.
arms. I got to move a lot. I don't know.
No. There you go. See? So the light turns out if somebody sits still for a couple minutes. But anyways, so those is that what you're talking about when you talk about renovations? You have
Correct.
to make it so that building can be environmentally controlled so the same thing occurs?
For the paper copies and things, we have to keep the deeds, right? Those are kept forever. So that stuff has to be, it's very regulated. Temperature, moisture, things like that, light. And that, the building is not set up for that.
So what do you, as the controller, because obviously you budget everything, what do you estimate? Do you have an estimate of what you estimate the cost of renovation to be and what the total cost when it's all said and done would be?
I do not have the number. I know I put out there 10 million, which was the high number. I have not looked at it. It's not going to be 5 million. I'm pretty sure it's going to be more than that when we finally get to the putting the documents there. I will say, I don't budget, right? So the commissioners get the budget. Here's the thing with elected officials. I just get to make sure everyone follows that budget.
Gotcha.
But I do look at the numbers a lot. What I would like to have seen when I came back in April, I asked them to look at the numbers and put together a study. It would have been great to have a group put together of the key people who wanted to use the building. Let's say the controller who looks at all the numbers and the commissioners and say, okay, here are all the departments. Here's what we're going to use it for. Here's a projection of what has to be done to the building to get that, and put some ballpark numbers on that. We had 5 months to do that before we signed a contract with a lawyer to start negotiating price. That would have been a good way to look at this, to say, okay, now it looks okay. We looked at these numbers. We know what it's going to take. Is it going to take more DPW people to manage this building? Is it going to take a security person to be here all the time to make sure it's secure? Or is that going to be, an electronic system, a camera system? What's it going to take to do the mines? What's it going to take to ESU, community development, all these elections things? Let's just actually put together a list and a plan and ballpark that.
Now, what about moving expense? I'm sure it's not going to be cheap to move all those records out of the mines.
No, and that one-time cost will be a lot.
Yeah. So in the end, is it feasible to do this? Is it something we need to do, in your opinion, in your professional opinion? Is it something we need to do to create more space? Because
I think as a county, long term, we need to look at that, right? And there is funding there left over from the ARPA funds, which we could take advantage of that now to do the upfront cost, right? And then the long-term costs then only fall under the taxpayers. It's still the taxpayers because it's ARPA money, because it's our tax dollars. But the development costs might not be there. So we do need to look at that. But I haven't seen that plan. If it exists, then share it so that we know that they've looked at this. They've done their studies. They've done the due diligence, as I call it. And they really have thought about this. They're not just purchasing a building that is out there because it looks to be the best. That's what I'm asking is, if you've done these studies, if there's done renovations, if you feel this truly is the best, then talk about that in detail so the taxpayers know that we've really thought about this and done what we should do.
Are there funds available to be able to buy this? Is there any leftover COVID money we could use or anything like that?
So the ARPA money is kind of the COVID money, right? That came out after the next round.
Right.
It's called the American Rescue Plan. There is some funding available. I don't know how much is there. Right now, we are still working through all the municipalities and that money and funding and how many of them are going to actually use the funding that they did. A lot of them came through at the end and did it. I think, come November, December, the commissioners will have a good idea of how much of that is left and then decide how we can best use that as the county to set us up and get done what we need to get done. But I don't know what that number is right now.
So the municipalities that actually put in for ARPA money, there's a cutoff coming up right now.
I think it is the end of October.
Okay,
the funds have to be spent because by law they have to be committed by this year.
Okay.
Under contract, and then all the money has to be spent by 2026.
Gotcha.
So if it is not under contract, and let's say we let them go and nothing happens, the county has to give that money back.
Gotcha.
And so there are things, like I said, the commissioners are looking at things that we could do. We did flooring in the courthouse. We did a lot of upgrades in the courthouse, would then save the county down the road that we wouldn't have to use the county tax dollars to do.
So hopefully some of that money we can use to...
We can, and I'm not saying that's not a problem. It's,
right.
Is this the best use of the money? I don't think we have looked at it for this big of an expenditure for a county. Mm-hmm. There should be a lot more planning and discussion on what the true cost is going to be.
Gotcha. All right, we're visiting with Maria Longo this morning. She is the county controller, and one of the reasons we went to you is because we elected you to take care of our money. We depend on you to say our money's safe and it's being used wisely. We're talking about the Beaver County Times building and the purchase of the Times building. Is this the only property that you're aware of that they've looked at, or has there been others? I know there was some talk of possibly building new and it was a lot more expensive.
Correct.
But has there been any other used properties available that are of this size in the county that they've looked at?
I can't speak to that exactly. Okay. I know in public meetings, Dan has mentioned, Commissioner Camp has mentioned that there have been other properties they looked at or they've tried to contact and they really didn't get any calls or they didn't look feasible or large enough. But I can't answer that,
It's convenient. I mean, honestly, where that building is convenient to the courthouse, location-wise.
Yeah.
So they would store election equipment in there, records. Is it big enough to store all the records from all these years that are in the mushroom mines?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So moving forward, is it big enough to continue, you think, into the future to be able to store more records?
So again, I haven't seen how much space we need.
Right.
I asked, back in April, I said to the ESU, how much space do you need? He's like, I don't know. He's like, but this is big enough. I'm like, but how much do you really need?
Right.
He's like, I don't know. This is big enough. I'm like, okay. So I don't think we've said this is how much we need.
Right.
So, I mean, I can ballpark now, but again, this is going to be a guess. I'm thinking right now we would use half the building.
Okay.
And then grow into that. But again, that's a guess for me because I haven't seen numbers on how much space we actually need.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's a pretty big building.
It is a very big building.
Which is good. I mean, that's good. There could be multi-uses.
But you also have to secure that very big building.
Correct. And then you have to, besides security, like you said, you have to staff it as well.
Correct.
Is that the type of facility that there would be somebody on staff 24 hours a day? And then also, the big question is would you have somebody there on a daily basis that you have to hire full-time employees to be there?
Now, in the initial discussions in April when we toured, there was no discussion of hiring staff. It was just going to be storing things there.
Okay.
But in me looking at the building, that I don't see how we don't. I don't see how we don't add at least 2 DPW people to maintain that building and how we don't have a security person there to let people in and out.
Right. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Curtis Walsh will be in to do news, and we'll visit more with Maria right after this.
Services, call Patriot Home Care in Beaver Falls. Their staff provides company, conversation, and companionship to all patients, ensuring medications are taken on time, participating in
Track 1 project for the Environmental Protection Agency's Community Change Grants. We have details on a new AAA analysis of government crash data revealing concerning trends in child passenger safety regarding seats, and also a country club in Oakmont ready to host the men's U.S. Open for the first time since 2016. We'll have more on those stories and more in the 9:05 newscast. We can expect partly sunny skies today with some clouds this afternoon, reaching a high near 81. Mostly cloudy tonight, going down to a low of 64. Clouds likely tomorrow for most of the day, reaching a high of 76. And for Thursday, partly sunny skies and a high near 82. On this Tuesday, September the 17th of 2024, at 32 minutes past 8, we've got a temperature of 63 degrees with sunshine in Beaver County. More 9:05. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
So, Curtis, did you see the big news out of Pittsburgh yesterday? Sid the Kid.
What do we got?
Sid the Kid is going to remain a Penguin for the next 3 years at least. So, at $8.7 million. I think that's cool that he always has his contract at 8.7. So, Maria, you're a Penguins fan, if I'm not mistaken, correct? A little bit?
I do. My family is. I'm not knowledgeable about hockey as much as I am in the other sports. My brother loves the Penguins. He loves hockey.
8.7 a year. So, Crosby, and then the Buccos, Paul Skeens. You got to love him.
I did. I got to see him this year.
Even though they lost last night. I was so bummed. So, all right, Curtis be back 9:05. He'll have more. And we're speaking this morning with Beaver County Controller Maria Longo. We're talking about the Beaver County Times. So I lost Maria. Oh, there she is. I got her. You ran. It was like black. I'm like, oh, where'd Maria go? She ran away on me. So, all right.
Better just to have my voice, right?
So we're talking about the Beaver County Times building this morning. So there has been a lot of speculation on who actually owns that building.
Yeah, so I'll give you the information I have. I only have minimal facts. So the owner on record is the BCT Times LLC. That is the company that owns it.
Oh.
So with the state, the person who signed for that was Thomas Reed. And then we know that Joe Askar is also part of that. Mm-hmm. Besides that, I do not know who else, if there's anyone else with the BC Times LLC. But those are the official ones. And then Michael Coleman is not an owner, but Michael Coleman has been involved in terms of he is the realtor who has been showing the building. An article that was done last December said he was responsible for the renovations of the building and overseeing the renovations. So that is how he is involved with this building. He is not an owner as far as I know.
Any conflict of interest here?
So from my standpoint, yes. Again, that is my opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't like all the interconnectedness. So Michael Coleman has been our advisor for our reassessment for the last 7 years.
Okay.
Since 2016, 2017. So he has been advising Tyler on the assessments and what the reassessed value should be. Specifically, his expertise has been commercial property. So then he had a hand in assessing the property at $3 million in 2023 when the market said it was worth $675 because that's what's on record for what it's sold with. I think that's a big discrepancy. So then we turn out that this person also is now the realtor on record who's going to sell the county that property. I see it as a conflict of interest. I brought that up prior. I was told there is not a conflict of interest, but I still think it's a conflict of interest.
No, I mean, he's the one that's going to benefit out of selling the building in the end. He's going to see, I can do my opinion. I'm allowed. So, but he's going to be the one at the end that's going to sell the building. So he's going to be the one that benefits because he's going to receive whatever his commission is off the building for selling the building. So if the value is higher, the more money he receives.
So I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question.
Go ahead.
If you owned a piece of property that you bought for, let's say, $500,000, and they came back and says, we're assessing it at $2 million, and you're going to pay taxes on $2 million, would you challenge that?
I'm going to appeal it right away.
Because you just bought it for $500,000.
Yep. So, well, that makes sense. So, but then when you go to do the appeal process, who's in charge of the appeal process?
Well, the company that we hired to be the expert to confirm that our assessed values were correct is owned by the man who consulted with Tyler to set those assessed values.
Okay. So that's where everybody's pissed off, in other words. To be honest, I mean, the people we've talked to.
The people who are appealing their properties,
Right.
for me, and again, I'm not going to make friends for this one, but I said in a public meeting in April, that was one of my points that I said in that letter that I've shared, is that we did not do a fair justice to the people who are appealing their numbers by hiring the company that helped set those values.
Now, as a citizen of Beaver County, I will say this. My home was assessed, and I don't care if people know what my home's worth. My home was assessed at $56,000 back in 1986 when the last assessment was, and it just came in double on this one. So, first thing I'd want to look at is what that Times building was assessed at back in 1986. I wouldn't have a problem if it was doubled, but then again, you have to look at the value of property that's been sitting empty for 5 years and what the repair is going to be in that building. So if they put new HVAC in it and, new heating and cooling, okay, so now what about the pipes? What about the toilets? What about the sinks?
The roof, the windows.
Right, all that stuff.
Right.
So that's all, that all will add up. Do you think that the $10 million that you're estimating is enough?
I don't think it's unreasonable in the long run for it to cost us that. Now, is it going to cost us up front? No, we might do it in pieces, right? We might buy the building now and put $2 million in it and get the equipment in there. But in the long run, to be able to get the records in there, I think the county's going to have to put out a big piece of money.
Okay. Talking with Beaver County Controller Maria Longo. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more right after this.
Beaver County Radio and the Pennsylvania Hot Rod Company, along with AK
So I'm a summer person. Do you like the fact of the fall, or you want to stick around in summer?
So I love summer. I love fall too. But we have been blessed this summer in Beaver County, right? We don't often get this much sunshine.
Oh, no.
Not a lot of rain, which, you had to water the plants a lot. But it has been blue skies for most of the summer, which has been wonderful.
I know. I love it. And we have a record going. This Saturday is our final Cruising on the Ridge car cruise for the year. And so far, and I can say this because that forecast looks good for Saturday, but so far, in the 2 years we've done it, we've not had a single rain out.
That's awesome.
10 car cruises, not one
and
rain
they've been
out.
big. I know. They've been pretty big. They've been good turnout.
Yeah, so we're hoping this one's going to be even bigger. So, all right, talking this morning about the Beaver County Times building, and we're visiting with Maria Longo, who's the county controller, and we're talking about whether it is fiscally responsible for the purchase of that building. And, you're looking at possible renovations somewhere around $10 million. There's dispute on that, saying that the figure's going to be more like $5 million. But then when you brought up a lot of different things I wasn't thinking of, and I start looking at it. And at the end of the day, is it going to be better for the county? I mean, I don't know what the current cost is of, housing. Well, we do know the documents, but like the elections machines, where are they being housed at now? Are they like in the courthouse, or are they stored somewhere?
I think most of them, and I'm pretty sure about this because I think this was said in the meeting, most of those are housed down at our DPW building, I think in by the park.
Okay.
And that's why it's getting tight, right? We have a lot more machines, things like that. DPW has a lot of equipment. So it is getting tight down there. So we do need more space for that.
Okay. And to me, with and getting back a little bit, because I know it's so much of to me, it's such a discrepancy that it seems like everywhere we turn, this same realty company keeps popping up, whether it be the company that's showing the building, the company that helped do the reassessment, and people involved with the company. With it, whether it be with the reassessment of and then with the appeals of the reassessment. So I understand where the conflict comes from, and I agree there's a conflict of interest. So the number that they say that company stands to gains around $1 million was originally out there for them to do the appeals of the reassessments.
Correct. So back when I did the April presentation in the public meeting, we had, well over 700, it was high, of appeals for the reassessment that were going to the courts. So I took the low number and the high number times. So if you look at the contract, we'll start with the contract we signed with that company to do appraisals for the reassessment are easily double the market rate, if not more. So the contract signed said they would get $6,700 for every commercial, and it might have been $2,400 for every residential. Going rate for a regular one, I think, might be like the 500 range for like residential. Like but you're in court, it's an appeal process, you would expect it to be more, right? Maybe double, but not quadruple. So the numbers we signed, I thought were extremely high for that contract. So I took a low number of appeals that would have to go and get new appraisals to a high one. That's where I came up with the $500,000 to $1 million. Turns out that we have not done that many, because luckily in this last year, a lot of them have settled out of court, which is a good thing for the taxpayers, right? I'm glad for that. But I've gotten a couple invoices. I'm going to ballpark because I can't remember. We might be at like $50,000 we've paid out so far. But like I said, I've only gotten a couple invoices. Not sure where that's going to fall. We have a new round, I think, and I can't remember what our solicitor said at the last public meeting. I'm going to think it was like another 700 might be coming in for this year in this process. I'm not sure how many of them are going to need appraisals done on it. So the number is coming lower. I'm going to ballpark we might be at a couple 100,000. I'm not sure of that. I'll keep track of the numbers for sure. But whether we paid 10,000 or 100, I still think it wasn't fair to hire the company that was involved in advising the assessed values to confirm those assessed values. I'll give you a simple example.
Go ahead.
I equate it to I'm hiring the accountant who cooked the books to confirm the numbers are correct. So like if you look at it like in a mafia type event, right? I'm keeping 2 books. I'm going to I'm going to hire the accountant who kept the 2 books for me to come to court to confirm that those numbers are correct.
I agree. I mean, I would be not knowing this going in. I mean, how many people went to an appeal hearing for their reassessment and did not know this information going in, that the same company that set your assessed value is the company that you have to sit down and talk with.
So, and I'm going to be clear, because I have to be clear, and I've learned something in this, is the company that was involved in advising setting the values, because Tyler truly did set the values. True. The people involved advised on making sure we got the right values for the county, was involved in the courts was hired to confirm those values for the county.
Okay.
I would have rather seen a totally non-related third-party appraisal company, and there's a few in the county. There's a big one we could have used. Come in and be hired for that to truly be fair and transparent for the taxpayers. I mean, the reassessment was a long, drawn-out thing that we had to do. The county had to do it. It had been a long overdone. Not a positive thing for a lot of taxpayers, right? So it was already, they were unhappy about it. We should have done everything we could to make it as fair as possible for them and help them through this process and been amicable and friendly through the whole process and treated them well, I think, and done it as a true, leading. That's how I feel.
This is just speaking.
Truly my opinion as an elected president. I'm not involved with that. That's my opinion on that process.
Well, I mean, was there any reason given why we hired this company to hear the appeals or, at double the market value?
I think the commissioner should answer that, not me.
Okay. We're going to ask them.
Okay.
Because, that's ridiculous. If there's other companies out there and it's double the price, that's, I pay my taxes. I want my money to go to the right place, and I want, I love what we're doing in Beaver County. So
that's a beautiful county, right? It is a beautiful county.
And I love what these 3 guys are doing together in our county. And I like to continue moving and go forward.
And I've told him that. I've told the commissioners when I presented this, I said, I agree with most of the stuff you do. You guys have spent the ARPA money well. You've invested well to put the county forward. In this instance, I disagree. And because I take pride in my elected position that I was elected to watch the money, I have to stand up and say my voice on this one. But, the 3 commissioners have worked well. They're a good group. They have done a lot of investment in this county, and a lot of decisions are really, really good, and they truly do care about this county. I just agree on this one area, and I felt like I had to speak up. I felt the taxpayers deserve to hear it as well. That's why I put it out there.
Okay. And I agree 100% with you. I think that we're privileged to live in Beaver County. I love living where we live, and I love what we're doing and moving forward as things we're doing. But again, I agree with you 100%. So at the end of the day, depending on where we go and how we go with this entire situation, there was a quote, as you said, an independent company that was brought in, but then that company was recommended also by. So at one point, somebody's going to have to stand up and say, and I know it's not you, but at one point somebody needs to stand up and say, hey, what the heck's going on here? Why aren't we bringing in somebody that's totally independent, not recommended by them? Why do we take their recommendation to go to Butler County and get another assessment company or appraisal company to appraise this property that is connected with you? I don't want to hear, I don't like the fact there's a recommendation there.
Correct. I don't know. There might not be any connection there. I don't know. I didn't investigate that part of it. But the fact that the recommendation came from the assessment office, to me, we should have totally went somewhere else and not done that. It would have been a better, transparent choice.
Agree 100%. So. I'm sure there's more to be. there's more to come, I'm sure, as this moves forward. Does this, in your professional opinion, does this look like a deal that the county's going to end up going through with, or that we're going to have it, or is that a question I need to ask the commissioners?
You need to ask the commissioners that, but right. I've been around for 5 years.
Already?
Yeah, it's
Holy
my 5th
smokes.
year. Can you believe it, right?
I know, right?
You get me for another 3, hopefully. Well, for sure for 3, but we'll see.
I hope we get you for some more
7.
after
there
that.
There you go. Yeah. I think it's a for sure thing, and I don't want to see that. I want us to really think. It is a big purchase. Any big purchase a government makes should do their due diligence and study it. We should have a study, right? So I shouldn't be negotiating a price of the building and in my inspections come up with a number because I'm already negotiating purchasing that. I should have done a study prior to that to actually look at the feasibility. Yeah. Now, and we do those a lot, right? We hire a company to look at feasibilities of building new places and things like we pay $50,000 to $200,000 on those studies. They do cost money, but when you're doing multi-million-dollar purchases, it is the right thing to do. Do I say we needed to spend that? Do we need to spend the $50,000 to $200,000? I didn't move again.
You got to wave. Yeah, you got to wave your hands again. The lights. It's the only bad thing. Those lights turn out. You
need like movement or something.
Yeah.
I would like to see us.
We can throw something at it.
And maybe this has been done, right?
Yeah.
It's the commissioners who get to decide these things, but I haven't seen it or seen it presented in a public meeting. Maybe they have this list of a projection of what needs to go into that building. All I'm asking is, can I see that? Can we share that with the people? Can we convince them that we need this and what's the cost going to be? Yeah. Like I said, we can be off $1 million or $2 million, but when you're spending $10 million to be purchasing a building and not know what the final cost is, it might be in segments. We might do just the equipment first, and we're only going to have to put $1 million into it, right? And we're going to come back in 5 years and over those and start spending money to upgrade it so we can eventually get the records in there. That's a plan. I have not seen that. That would convince me that we've thought about it and we're just not purchasing this building. That we've actually been doing what we're supposed to. We're being a good leader. We're looking at it fiscally, and we're actually following a plan. That's what I'm asking.
Right. So with the ESU unit being there, that would be vehicles and everything that they would have to store there too, right?
That's my understanding. Yeah. And they could be doing training there as well. There's enough room.
Yeah, there's a lot of room.
There is.
that's
you can get
sure.
lost in that building. It's a maze.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, one of the big things that people need to understand, and they don't want to do this, and I don't get it, but at the end of the day, there's so much information out there that you can get, and that's why I had you come in, so that people could, get the facts and make their own judgment. But at the end of the day, there's two ways you can do it. Number one, if you got questions, go to the commissioners. They have a work session every Wednesday.
Week.
Number two, you can always, it's out there. They stream every one of those meetings every week. So you can always watch them on there. So you don't necessarily have to go. But then when you got a question, go ask it. They're there. You're allowed to talk.
You can email them. You can call them. All the meetings are out there. They're public meetings. The minutes are out there. Anybody could get information any time of day.
Yeah. So perfect. So Maria, I appreciate you coming in as always.
Thanks, Frank.
I love the fact that because when I first met you were just running for office.
I think that's the last time we actually talked was back in 2019.
Yeah, I haven't been on the air too much since then.
I think I was in with Matt a couple times, but right.
Yeah. They had me doing other things. So, but it's fun, and I enjoy you coming in. I'm glad to see that from the first time I met you when you were running that you're now the controller and doing everything. So, dogs, right?
What dog?
You have dogs, right?
I do. I have 4 now.
4. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I remember.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. So, all right. Well, thank you for coming in. Appreciate
Thanks.
you clearing a lot of things up for us. Eddie Crow will come up next, and he will talk to you about it, and he will get your opinions. And you can also watch it on Facebook Live at any time as well. And I will be back again tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Frank.
Looking for home services? Call Patriot Home Care in Beaver Falls. Their staff provides company, conversation,